What deepens the danger of this moment is how rapidly events are feeding into one another. Economic stress fuels political instability. Political instability encourages aggressive foreign policy. Aggressive foreign policy accelerates global resistance, and that resistance, in turn, further weakens the economic foundations that started the cycle in the first place. It is a feedback loop, and once such a loop gains momentum, stopping it becomes extraordinarily difficult. The United States is now confronting a reality it has not faced since the end of World War II, a world that no longer automatically aligns with its interests. For decades, Washington could rely on a predictable response to pressure. Allies would fall in line. Neutral states would hedge cautiously. Rivals would ultimately adapt to American-led rules. That predictability is gone. Instead, the global response to American pressure is increasingly coordinated, patient, and strategic. Countries are no longer reacting emotionally to U.S. actions. They are planning around them. This shift from reaction to anticipation marks a fundamental change in the global balance of power. One of the clearest signs of this change is the quiet reconfiguration of global supply chains. Nations are reducing exposure to U.S.-controlled choke points, diversifying trade routes, and investing heavily in regional self-sufficiency. Energy flows, food security strategies, semiconductor production, and even pharmaceutical manufacturing are being reshaped with one goal in mind: minimizing vulnerability to geopolitical coercion. This trend weakens one of America's most powerful tools, economic leverage. Sanctions, once devastating, are now increasingly absorbed, bypassed, or mitigated. They still cause pain, but they no longer guarantee compliance. In some cases, they even accelerate the very behaviors they were meant to prevent. At the same time, American society itself is struggling to process these changes. The idea of decline remains deeply uncomfortable. For generations, Americans were taught that leadership was synonymous with dominance, and dominance was permanent. The possibility that the United States might become one major power among many, rather than the central axis of global order, is psychologically destabilizing. This discomfort shapes political rhetoric. Leaders promise restoration rather than adaptation. They frame compromise as weakness and restraint as surrender. Complex global shifts are reduced to narratives of betrayal, conspiracy, or foreign sabotage. Such framing may mobilize domestic support in the short term, but it narrows the space for realistic long-term strategy. The risk is that decisions made under these conditions prioritize symbolism over substance. Displays of strength replace sustainable policy. Short-term victories are valued over long-term stability. In international relations, this often leads to overextension, a classic precursor to strategic failure. The military dimension of this overextension is especially concerning. While the United States still possesses unmatched capabilities, modern warfare no longer rewards sheer scale alone. Conflicts are increasingly asymmetric, technologically complex, and politically constrained. Superior firepower does not guarantee decisive outcomes, particularly against adversaries willing to endure prolonged costs. Moreover, America's rivals have studied U.S. military doctrine for decades. They understand its strengths and its limitations. Rather than confronting the U.S. directly, they aim to complicate, delay, and exhaust. Gray zone tactics, proxy conflicts, cyber operations, and economic warfare blur the line between peace and war, making traditional responses less effective. In such an environment, escalation can occur without clear intent. A cyber attack on critical infrastructure, a misinterpreted military exercise, a clash between proxies that draws in larger powers. Each incident, on its own, might seem manageable. Together, they create a ladder of escalation that becomes increasingly difficult to step down from. The danger is amplified by the erosion of trust between major powers. Communication channels still exist, but confidence in mutual restraint has declined sharply. Assumptions of rational behavior, once a stabilizing factor, are now questioned. When leaders doubt the predictability of their counterparts, they are more likely to act preemptively, increasing the risk of miscalculation. Meanwhile, global public opinion is shifting in subtle but significant ways. In many regions, the United States is no longer viewed as a stabilizing force but as a disruptive one. This perception does not necessarily reflect hostility. Rather, it reflects uncertainty. Countries are unsure whether American involvement will bring security or instability. This uncertainty weakens alliance cohesion. Alliances rely not just on treaties, but on shared expectations. When partners begin to doubt whether commitments will be honored, or whether decisions will be made impulsively, those alliances lose credibility. They may persist on paper, but their practical effectiveness diminishes. Europe's quiet push for strategic autonomy is one example. Middle Eastern states diversifying their security partnerships is another. Southeast Asian countries hedging between major powers is yet another. None of these shifts represent an outright rejection of the United States, but together they signal a gradual rebalancing away from dependence. At the heart of this transformation lies a simple truth: power is no longer monopolized. Technology, capital, and information are more widely distributed than ever before. This diffusion does not eliminate conflict, but it changes its nature. Control becomes harder. Influence becomes conditional. Coercion becomes costly. For the United States, adapting to this reality would require a profound shift in strategic culture. It would mean accepting limits, prioritizing diplomacy, investing in domestic resilience, and redefining leadership as coordination rather than command. Such a shift is possible, but politically difficult, especially in a polarized environment. Instead, the temptation is to double down, to assert dominance where cooperation would suffice, to frame every challenge as an existential threat, to treat decline as something that must be fought rather than managed. This is where the risk of a catastrophic mistake becomes most acute. World War III, if it ever occurs, is unlikely to begin with a formal declaration or a single dramatic event. It would emerge from accumulation of tensions unresolved, signals misread, and thresholds crossed incrementally. By the time it is recognized as a global war, reversal may no longer be possible. Yet even now, the future is not predetermined. The same forces that make conflict dangerous also make restraint valuable. Interdependence, for all its fragility, still creates incentives for stability. Shared challenges, climate change, pandemics, technological risk, cannot be solved through confrontation alone. The question, ultimately, is not whether American power will change. It already has. The question is how that change will be navigated, through confrontation or through adaptation. The world stands at a hinge point in history. Decisions made now will echo for decades. They will shape whether this era is remembered as the moment humanity stumbled into disaster or the moment it learned to manage power more wisely. The drumbeat many fear is not yet destiny, but it is growing louder.